Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to this video. I'll be talking about arrays of struct that we discussed today in the class. So we'll start by defining a struct inventory as we did in today's session. So we'll write down in our programming environment struct inventory, and these are the three variables that we have defined. Then we can define the print function. So here is the print function for these three variables. Then as before, we can define constructors. So here is the default constructor for inventory. And then we can define the parameterized constructor. And this is how a parameterized constructor will be defined. So this part here is the parameterized constructor. And this part here is the default constructor. Okay, then in the main program, we can write down we can define a struct which is an array in fact. So inventory table 4 would mean that it would have 4 rows. The index starts from 0, ends at 3, and each row would represent a specific part number, cost, and its price. So this is how this is actually done. So let's see that if it works properly or not. Let's just run this program. You have to close the definition of the struct here. Hopefully it would work. Yes, it works. So this was the part that was missing that I've added. Right, G. So let's just access these values now. And one way of accessing these values from the main program would be to use the dot notation. And then we can print. So this is how you can actually use the dot notation and set these values and then print them. Let's just run this program, and here you go. The values are printed here. Part number is 123, cost is 10, and price is 15. Okay. Then you can also use the parameterized constructor to initialize these values. Once you declare this, for that you'll have to explicitly call the parameterized constructor here. And let's just comment this part and see that how the parameterized constructor can be called here. Okay, so this is the parameterized constructor call. So here you can see that row 1, which is index 0, the parameterized constructor is called with these 3 parameters here. And this is for row 2, the parameterized constructor is called, and then we are printing the values. So let's just run this. So here you go. You got the values at the output. So this is how the parameterized constructor is actually called for 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 various structs or arrays that you have actually defined. Okay, what else? Another way of setting up these values is to use the setter and the getter functions. So let's just define the setter and the getter functions, and let's use these functions to set the values. So here is the first setter function. It sets the part number, and this is being defined in the definition of the struct. So this is for part number. Similarly, you can define the setter function for the other variables that are present um, for the other functions. So let's just write down the setter functions for them. So these are the 3 set functions or setter functions. One is for the set part, the second one is for the set cost, the third one is for the set price. And you can use these functions too in your main program or anywhere in the program to set the values. Okay, so let's just use this to set the values. Okay. So inside your main program, I'll be writing down a few statements, 3 statements. What is this doing? This is calling the set part number, set cost, and set price functions. And it's actually setting the values for table number, table 0. Okay. So let's just run this program. Okay. So it has actually run successfully, and it has set the values. Let's just print the values and see that. So table 0 dot print, and let's just print these values and see what is the output. Okay, so you can see that these values have been set. Similarly, the getter functions could be defined, and as I told you earlier in the class, that setter functions are primarily getter functions are functions that get the value of different variables, and these are the 3 functions that we have defined for getting the values. The first one here is for getting the value of part number, the second one is for getting the value of cost, and the third one is for getting the value of price. Okay. And how do you actually get the values? You get the values by simply calling the function. Okay. And I'll actually write down here table 0 dot get price. So I just want to get the price function, the price value. So you can call this, and then you can write down a cout statement to check what value has been obtained. Okay, so you can actually also see that. So what is the value that has been obtained? I mean, of course, it is a simple cout statement after the get function, and if I change the values here, let's say price की value यहाँ पे मैं set कर देता हूँ 300, just to tell you that how uh, the value can be obtained. So this is how to call the get function, right? And this is simply to print a single price variable. Let's run this. And you can see that the price value has been set to 300 here. You can use the standard dot notation and directly access the values and those values, but making the setter and getter functions is like a more or is a better practice. Obviously, with some advantage, with obvious advantages. Okay, so that actually completes our discussion regarding the setter and the getter functions and how to obtain these values and how to uh, get these values in. Okay, right.